Welcome to Bob Talk. How's everybody doing?
I am I am doing great. Yeah, doing really, really good. Had a coaching section with a coach that a mental health coach that I got a lot of insight on me and just excited about the news that, a better understanding of me and some of those things that may be blocking me. So really good.
Is that a physical coach or
No, it is actually it's like a self-love mental coach,
okay?
um, dealing with self-love. Where am I on the scale? How does my behavior reflect on the level of how I love myself?
Okay.
And so it was really, really good just to get some understanding of where some of the things come from.
Okay.
One of the things that they talked about was one of the things that I was needing as a child was support. And so when I feel like I'm not supported, then it triggers me. And so
Okay.
to be able to understand those triggers and where it's coming from, but that was not something that, it's like, that's something new and different that I'm always learning new stuff about me.
Okay. It's good.
So you gain some insight. How did you come about this, coach?
I actually attended a Meet the Therapist, a Meet the Black Therapist event that Katrina
Oh,
was
yes.
heading, and I wanted as a prize.
Oh, did you?
And yes, and I was like, okay. And when they were announcing things, there was a bag that I really wanted to win. But I ended up winning this, and I was I was excited about it. And at after I've gone through other trainings, I'm gonna go back to her because there was a lot of insights and things that she shared that was like really good and very helpful for me.
Oh, good. Good.
So this was our annual event that she attended. Now we have vendors every year who actually give prizes, and you have an opportunity if you're in attendance to enter into some of the drawings to get different vendor items. And some vendors will just donate like the items.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they may not be a vendor, but they are willing to donate. Like,
That's wonderful.
so yes.
Maybe I should attend next year.
Maybe you should. Maybe we'll have
It
you.
was really
Put it on
good.
my calendar.
Yes, ahead of time. But we got to make sure to put it on ours ahead of time as well. So, our planning calendar, everything, we'll be working on that. So,
Good. Good.
yeah.
Today we are talking about our principle, recognizing people's influence. Recognizing people's influence. Last time we talked about that when you walk into your vision, when you decide to actually launch your vision, that two things will happen. It will stir up both people who are going to support you and also people who will attend to or can cause you to what he identifies hinder you. So really identifying, but the principle is that you can't do your vision, you can't accomplish your vision by yourself, which is one of my mantras. I can do nothing by myself. And the question is so who should I have along with me? Who should I have along with me? And the question that goes along with that is, what do I need them for? And I think that's a really good question. I need encouragement. I need knowledge. I need wisdom. I need um, just someone to support. I may need their experience. There are a number of things that I can get from others who I come along with. how do we select those individuals? One of the things that he identifies is asking these questions. So if I've launched my vision, I'm in my vision, I'm on my way to fulfilling my purpose, who am I spending time with? Who am I spending the most time with?
Yeah.
When you answer that question, identifying who I spend most of my time with and what do I spend my time with them doing?
Absolutely. And I've heard it stated this way before. We are an accumulation of the people, the top 5 people we spend the most time with, right? And I think, and he said this too in the book. Like sometimes we think our the old saying, "Birds of a feather flock together."
Right. Yeah.
Right? Your parents used to say that, and they used to have us watch who we spend time with. But that's because who we spend time with, and we're going to talk about this more in today's session, that we actually can be influenced by the people that we spend time with. So
You become like those with whom you spend time. It was so funny as you were sharing that. I was thinking about how many people have gone to the islands. They go to Bahamas or they go to Jamaica, and then they come back with this fake accent. Just start using the words because they spend so much time around individuals with the accent until they are trying to associate with. And so as you think about um, adults and even children, you begin to recognize that they are begin to associate with those who they spend the most time with. And even it's so funny because when Aaron was younger, when he was a little boy, he used to go to his grandmother's. That's where he'd spend most of his time associated with them. And so, of course, he picked up some of his grandmother's habits and ways, and like, where did he get that from? It's because that's who he was spending time with.
yeah, yes, absolutely. I think I thought about something that I think maybe Andrew was 4 years old. Um, and if mom's here, on listening, no offense. But it was something he was playing a game or he was doing something and he was like, "What the?" I turned around and I was like, "Where did you get that from?" He looked at me like, "What?" Like he didn't know there was anything wrong with what he said, right? Because it was a common phrase that he had heard.
From someone he was admiring.
Yes. So it was just funny. I mean I laughed at that because we actually had that conversation. We know who says that all the time, right? So
Mhm.
He identifies there's two kinds of people in the world, and I've heard this before, but I never heard. He said those who are for us and those who are against us. And I had never heard it put in those terms, and I wonder, do is that the way that I see people? Is that the way that I approach people from the perspective of, am I trying to figure out if you are for me or against me?
so what do you mean by that? Is that the way you approach people?
So it's because you can, the fear of connecting with someone who is against you, or if you are somewhat fearful or even paranoid that you won't connect with people because you are afraid of them being against you, and you sort of size them up that they're against me and not for me. And I think that can be a hindrance if I have that kind of black and white perspective. You're either for me or against me.
And so here's the thing. Here's one of the things that I think is very important too, as we're talking about vision and how you identified that, Pastor Aubrey. We have a tendency to build a wall that will keep us from moving forward with our vision when that particular mindset becomes a focus, or that's in play, right? Because I know me, it's like I don't want to go on social media. I don't. This whole thing, it was a struggle, right? Because I know what comes with social media. I'm not trying to hear nobody's negative comments or whatever. I don't want to hear it. But the truth of the matter is, we're going to have those who are for us, and we're going to have those who are against us. What we cannot do is allow ourselves to keep from moving forward based on that.
Because that would be an inherent hindrance.
Definitely inherent.
And a self hindrance, because I realize I need some people. I need some folks with me. But if I just dismiss everyone before they even get to the door, it's like will have no customers. Because you're afraid that they're gonna come in and steal, right? They're gonna come and take your stuff and take advantage of your stuff, and really understanding that, and then understanding what it means for someone to be with you, and what it means for someone to be against you, because there can be abuse, but you need to identify: is this abusive, or is this correction that is going to help me? And are they saying this because they've been through it? Are they sharing this because they've experienced it, and they're trying to help you avoid some pitfalls and challenges? I hear this ringing voices. You're just trying to control me, right? It's like, no, I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to give you some insight, and so having to be open to that.
Yeah.
And,
Go ahead.
and the other piece to me that I look at is like Jesus and Peter. And Jesus has said, okay, I'm gonna have to go. And Peter's like, oh no. So they're not really against you, but the direction that you're going, they can hinder where you're going, because to them they're trying to protect you, they're trying to help you. And I heard something this week where, because I in the past have been the person who's like, I don't need you in my life, I'm gonna cut you off. I don't need this, I'm gonna cut you off. And then I started looking around and said, I don't have people around me. And it's because I was quickly cutting people off. And then I realized it's like, okay, if I see people that are hindering me or hindering the direction I go, what I do is spend less time with them, not cut them off, and spend more time with people that will go in the direction that I'm going. So sometimes people are not trying to be against me, but they're actually doing things that's going against the vision in the direction that I'm going.
But that also speaks to knowing the difference and being willing. Pastor use the word open, right? Sometimes I have to be open, because just because someone gives me some type of criticism, does it always necessarily mean the criticism is against me to hinder me from accomplishing my vision? Or will that criticism, or I like to call it constructive feedback, help me to grow?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So someone might say, like, look at something that I said. Well, you said it this way. Is there in part of what I do, right, is helping people to say, how could you have responded to that in a different way? Right? How can you utilize this to help move your vision forward? So even those who are haters, can we look at that like, okay, there's a purpose for them too somewhere.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then, because sometimes haters can tell you the truth that you don't want to hear. So it is like, okay, now you're saying that you want to start your morning prayer at 5:30. You know you don't get up that early. And so when people point that out, oh, you're just, going against God told me to get up at 5:30. Well, they're just, bringing to your attention, you have an issue in that area. And so rather than say, oh, they just hating on me, it's like there might be a grain of truth in what they're saying. So there is a purpose for haters to help me to up my game.
Right. Yeah.
So, something, when you said that, I thought about when me and Anthony were separated. My granddad's wife, she said she made sure to tell him, or she had told me she was praying for reconciliation, right? At the time, I was not. And so I told him, I said, you tell your wife, if she gonna pray for me, she needs to pray with me and not against me. Right? Just knowing, though, I was at a place where I wasn't willing to accept, someone's honesty, someone's prayer that was for me at the time, because I wanted to do, was what I wanted to do really align with God's vision for my life, or was I wanting to do what I wanted to do? So, yeah.
There are, as he identifies the questions that we need to do introspection. Introspection just says, what are these people doing to me? Those questions. What words? What are they causing me to read? What are they causing me to think about? What are they asking me to watch? What are they inviting me into? Those kinds of things. Where are they asking me to go? And there are some places, and when I think about, sometimes I think about going to places that my father was really good at this, taking me to places I didn't want to go. And I'd have 50 million questions before we got there, and not really knowing that his focus, his desire was to network. He networked. He got to know people, and he got to know people in different places. And so it wasn't just being there, but it was there to see who I can connect with. And my brother got that really good. Tim could do that. But me, on the other hand, I'm still working at trying to do that, connect with people. But it is coming to a place where you can relax and realize that, and he would do this. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day, and they said he had taken this position, and my father said, I need to meet with you. And he said, okay. And so he set up the lunch, and he said, all he wanted to do was get to know him. He said, you're in this position, and basically you're in this position of influence, and I need to know you. And the flip side was and you need to know me. And I think we don't necessarily always think of that in those terms, but who is it that I need to go? If do I need to know? As we're trying to accomplish whatever the vision or purpose is that you've identified, who is it that I need to say, hey, I need to have lunch with you? And there's sometimes we back from that because we say, well, what are we going to talk about? I'm just going to get to know you. I'm just going to glean from you. It reminds me of Mary at Jesus's feet. I'm just going to sit at your feet and watch what you do and observe it, and knowing that that's the influence, not just being influenced, but also not just influencing, but being influenced. Who is it that I want to just spend time with?
So is it the word gleaming from their fields, right? Gleam, is it?
Yeah. What the other question that they ask is, what do they have you settling for?
Mm-hmm.
What do they have you settling? What have you given up on because of them? And that is also, so what's being around them causing, he identified that there's some people who he needed to, and this gets to disassociation.
Yes.
And I thought about that book we did, the Goodbyes. What was it called? Uh,
Um,
Good
good boundaries,
boundaries
good
and good vibes.
boundaries.
yeah, Good Boundaries and Goodbyes. And I thought about it. I said, that's a whole book on disassociation. Um, but it identifies that there are some um, some relationships, some connections that you really have to disassociate with. And disassociation is not confrontational. You can disassociate um, gradually.
Mhm.
So there's people who said, I haven't talked to you in I don't know how long. Yeah, you haven't.
On purpose.
You said so, but it's so good to see you. How you been? And so we do a catch up. But I'm not going to spend as much time with you as I did in the past. It is a form of disassociation, and there are those and it's funny because there are people who are outside of the circle, and they'll say, "How come y'all don't spend more time together like you used to?" Like because things have changed.
Hmm.
It's like that's just the reality of it. And it's not that that you're angry or that are discontent with it. It just says that we're going in different direction, and so that association was necessary for that season, and it worked. But we are now in different places, and that it reminds me what you said with Pete when Jesus told Peter, "I got to leave." He's no, you can't go. It's like
Hmm.
it's necessary that I go because if I don't go, then you're not going to fulfill what you're supposed to fulfill, and I'm not going to fulfill what I need to fulfill. And so I think that is a form of disassociation. Questions are, so who is it that I need to disassociate with? Who is pulling me in the wrong direction? And then what is my process of disassociating? The question that came up to me as I was reading this though was, what happens if it's family?
Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is it may be family.
And I believe a lot of times it could be family for the reason of you grow up in a family, they know you, and there are some family limitations that's normal to the family. But
Yes.
nobody in our family have done this. Oh, and you're trying to do,
Yeah,
oh, do you know that's going to cost a lot of money? You know, that's going to be a lot. That's difficult to do. And so it is those things where there is norm in the family to be a certain way. And so we associate with the family, with our family values and the rest of that stuff. And so a lot of times trying to be helpful, family can be the hindrance. And if you feel like you're close and you feel you I can sometimes feel like, oh, I'm over here with this person and I'm just leaving out my family.
yeah,
And it's like, okay, I'm not like ignoring you or not doing. It is for me at this particular time, I need to be with a different group and then have that limited association with my family, because the whole direction that I'm going. And then there are some people in my family that's going to the same direction that I'm going. And so I need their influence, or I'm getting their influence for me to take those steps. So sometimes it could be families. But my question is, how do you how do we do that when it's your spouse?
Whew. Well, one of the things he said is that first of all, you need to make sure before you get married that your spouse is understanding of what direction you're going in, um, and 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 so that's why premarital counseling is so important, because it says I need to know your values and your heart, because who I am today is not who I'm going to remain. And so are
Mhm.
you going to be able to change with me? And I need you to understand the direction that I could possibly go in. I had a cousin who who married. Well, actually, she there was a cousin that got married to a guy who became a minister. He talked about his first wife when his first wife was going to kill him because he said he was going to become a minister. He was, going into ministry, and she literally got a knife and was going to kill him. It's like, um, she didn't know he was a Christian. She didn't know he was a what happened here? But it really says that I need to know and understand that in this process that I'm connected with a spouse. Now, I think that when you think about the compromise and um, how is this? Because the other thing that Miles talks about, he says that God sends you people to help.
Yeah.
So he talked about going to school, and he wanted to go and get his master's degree. He said that there were some who were like, "You going where? And you gonna do what? We've never done that before." He said, but when I got there, he said there were people who were helping me with finances. There were people who were helping me with the work, and there were people who were provided resident. There was all these people who were willing to help, and God will send you the help. And I think sometimes we can miss the help that God sends us, trying to get the help from who's already in front of us.
Yeah, and understanding and knowing, because it's just somebody asks you for clarity, right? So is this really what you want to do?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Somebody's helping you to seek to get clarity. You might mistake them for being against you when they're really for you and helping, trying to help you get to where you need to go. And then back to the whole the marriage thing, Pastor Aubrey, I am 100% behind you when it comes to premarital counseling, right? So one of the things that we have clients do when we were doing a couple of couples counseling, like, I need y'all to write y'all's goals separately. Don't even talk about your goals
Yeah.
after when you do this exercise. Bring the goals back and we'll read them in here, because I
Right.
want to see the expression on your potential spouse's face when you say you plan on moving to Africa when y'all have 5 kids.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
I want to see if they also plan on having the 5 kids, and especially if they're the ones that got to carry the kid. So, it's being having an opportunity to communicate those goals are so important.
Right.
Mhm.
And no, it gives you an opportunity, like I say, to have clarity in regards to your vision, and then also to make sure that your the people who you are on this journey with, right? And that's what this chapter is talking about, are aligned with their vision if they're supposed to be a part of your team. Yeah.
One of the quotes from the book, he says, and I'll um I'll ask our viewership to chime in whether you believe it's true or not. People who change the world have declared independence from other people's expectations. People who change the world have declared independence from other people's expectations. So think of some world changers and identify, is this true? That they had to declare independence to accomplish what that meant. Declare independence from other people's expectation on them.
Absolutely. I,
Mhm.
while we're waiting on them to answer that, I think what came to my mind when we were talking about family as it relates to other people's expectations, a lot of times when it comes to family, the expectation is that we'll always remain the same, right? There's an expectation for you not to change, right? And so then you have to deal with the negative comments, right? Oh, you think you better. Oh, you bougie is a word that's common, right? For oh, you. So it's not. It's understanding that no, that's not the case. I'm just operating in alignment with my vision and my call.
Yeah. Nobody's responding in our chat. So, are you in agreement with that, or have you declared your own independence from others' expectations?
And if not, what's the struggle? What makes it hard?
Yeah.
Pastor
Yes.
Aubrey, have you ever
Mhm.
experienced that? Like a difficulty declaring your independence from other people's expectations?
Yes. Especially when it came to pastor, because everybody had expectation about who I was going to be and how much I was going to be like my dad, and they tried to put me in that box, and I'm not him, and so I had to declare I'm here now. It's so funny because the way I would say it, it's so funny because like you got some big shoes to fill, and I would say he's wearing his shoes, so I'm I've got my own shoes, so I'm not trying to fill his shoes. They're already filled with him. So that's
Mhm.
important to understand. So who am I and what is God calling me to do? What vision has He placed in me? So that is, um, and that's challenging because people are like, well, you think you're better than them, but it's like, no, I'm different. That's nothing to do with better. It's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of
Uh,
the
Go ahead.
one of the things that I think is important for us to understand is like when it comes to disassociation, limited association, expanded association is what Miles talks about as it relates to increasing those influences in our lives
Yeah.
that um, are positive influences as it relates to where we're going.
Yeah. One of the statements in we'll sort of wrap this up. The first one that comes to mind is he talks about three kinds of, he talks about disassociation, but he also talks about limited association, and then he also talks about expanded association. With limited association, he says spend major time with positive influence and minor time with negative influence.
Yep.
And sort of an evaluation of those who are positive influence and how much time I intentionally spend with them, and then those who are drained, and limiting that amount of time with them. Uh, so, and it's funny because the the way that you can also do that, and that is send a text. So there's some folks I send a text to every morning. Hopefully, not listening, but I send a text to, and it is it is my way of staying associated, but it's not a great amount of time. I'm
Yep.
laughing, Pastor Melvin.
It's necessary. It is
Yes,
necessary. So
yes,
yeah, I find myself doing the same thing. Um, and it's knowing who's turning your face to your goals,
yeah,
right? Because
right,
everybody will not be in alignment to where you're going,
right,
but you have to be
Mhm.
okay with that in this. Like, and I'm learning that I have to be okay with that in this season. I can't take everybody with me. I can't take my family with me, and everybody in my family who I would love to take with me, but I can't.
yeah. That's very true. I think that's part of the limited association is like I want to stay associated with your family. I want to stay associated with you, but I realize you're not going, and and I still want you to know I care and I still love for you and I still care about you. But um, you you do you and I'm doing me, and one of the other things he talks about it is, and one of the reasons for Bob Talk is you must protect your mental environment. You must protect
Mhm.
your mental environment. No one, and what he identifies, he says, no one should prophesy anything over you that God hasn't already revealed to you.
Hello.
He said, and it's interesting because he says prophecy is to confirm your vision to you first. It is for confirmation, exhortation, and encouragement, not for direction.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think about what the example that I shared earlier, right? And it wasn't because I didn't know she was right. I knew that I had a ministry of reconciliation, right? And what I do today even speaks of it. But I didn't want it. I was done. I was over it. I wasn't waiting.
Yes.
And even then, I knew that her praying for me was going against my will, and we want people to who align in our like with our vision. So um,
Right.
it's knowing, paying attention to what God has told you, and also being willing to be obedient to that.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
and not even to a extent to where we allow family to discourage us from
Yes.
being obedient to the call.
What do you think about this statement? And we're way over time, but this statement where he says, "Don't allow someone to give you your vision."
I think that means it's going to be important for us to be very clear about our vision, because then nobody can give you your vision when you're clear about where you're going.
Right.
And the
Because people can look at you and say, oh, and back in the day, people used to always say, oh, you're going to be a preacher. That was like a big thing. So you give like, oh, you're really good at this. This is where and it's like, no, that is not the direction that God is giving me. So you're trying to give me a vision based upon what you think I'm good with, versus God is saying, no, go this direction. And so, people can, like you said before, people can confirm your vision, but they can't give it to you. Something has to be connected
yes.
with you.
Yeah.
Pastor, you had something to say on that, so then we can wrap this up, right?
Yes. The last one was just expand your association. Expand your association, which says then that I need to try to emulate those who are who I that I want to get to know, emulate them, meaning I want to get connection. So I want to expand it, which in some terms is networking, but saying I am being intentionally um, pursuing relationships which are going to associate. And it I, I think in some terms, in some portion of our mind, we might say, I don't want to use people, right? But it really says I definitely need to take advantage of the people who are around me that God has placed and given me opportunities with. And just as I'm gleaning from them, I pray that they would glean from me.
Yeah.
So it's mutual, and that's so important. I know in my own experience of mentoring others, it has helped me. Right, it's been a benefit to me, and many times we spend some time talking about I'm really grateful for this opportunity. No, I'm really grateful. We go back and forth, but we recognize that's really the sign of expanding uh, our association. So
Yeah.
now the last thing, and then we accentuate the positive. So really just says increase the positive influences in your life and decrease the negative. Increase the positive and decrease the negative. There's a song like that somewhere.
I was thinking the same thing. Isn't there a song that says you got to accentuate the positive, something like that?
That yeah,
Sang,
it's like that.
Trey.
Yeah, that's like one of those conjunction junctions. What's your functions type of songs that we used
It's
to sing
somewhere,
as
but I
kids.
know that's the thing about it is, like all this stuff that we're talking about, right? We had these songs when we were little that we played, and it's becoming clear, guys. I want you to see that I think God has always been trying to get us somewhere. He's always been trying to get us to align with His vision. This information that we're sharing with you is not new. It's just in time for such a time as this, right? This is the
Yeah,
season for it, and I hope that it's really helping
yes,
people to walk into what God is calling them to.
yeah. That's good. That's good. Pastor Mel, you want to close us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, we come thanking you and praising you, oh God, for the vision that you have given us, oh God. We just thank you for giving us clarity, oh God, and we ask that you continue to help us and help us to make good decisions as to the people who we associate with, oh God. And we ask that you give us the courage to disassociate when we need to and to add when we need to. So we thank you and praise you for all you've done, and we thank you for your vision, and help us to continue to be obedient to you and spend time with you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, this ends another episode of
Bye,
Bob Time. And we'll see you next week.
bye everyone.